the roots of it go right back to Washington, D.C. And it's our obligation to make certain that we bring pressure on our own government to make sure that democracy rather than tyranny can exist in Pakistan.
Excellent. Will you say all four of you, and I don't mean to personalize it in relation to four of you, but including four of you and many, many others, do you think this is one more evidence, one more piece of evidence of the emergence of international civil society, where people are not thinking in terms of their countries or the states or governments, but they're thinking in terms of larger principle, they're thinking in terms of universal human rights, dignity of the human being, and they are thinking of due process, equal justice for every person. So can we say that what we are witnessing at this time globally, and Pakistan is just one dimension of that, is emergence of an international civil society?
Let me add to that. Yes, and it wouldn't be possible for us to all participate if it weren't for the technology of the day. You know, in the 30s, 100 years ago, these things were going on. These battles were being waged and fought, but we didn't have the opportunity to interlock and to share support among each other and to take messages from their actions. As the good doctor just pointed out, that we Americans think we're so great. My God, the Chief Justice in Pakistan is doing a better job than the Chief Justice of the United States of America could even think of doing. And this is communicated to the world so that the world can now make a judgment about our incapacities and compare them to the capacities of what these people are fighting for in Pakistan. This is a message that will unify the people of the world to great benefit. Until the world comes together in some form of real global governance, we will never see peace. We'll never see peace, and this is what is the beginning of it. You see it in Pakistan, you see it in Zimbabwe. It just jumps up here and there. It's not organized, but what is organized is the communication process of it all, so that we all take from it what's important to us, and it nourishes us in our battle to improve our society.
Excellent. It almost looks like setting up two tiers. One is the government-to-government tier, or elements of one government, elements of other government, and then secondly is the people-to-people tier, and they are not always necessarily in the same direction, they're moving in different directions. As a citizen of this country, with great pain, I want to ask you one question. When so much unlawful acts have been committed against the Chief Justice of Pakistan and the judges as well, why is it the State Department has not said a word about it? As a matter of fact, always found ways of condoning it. What do you think explains that? I mean, how can people in Pakistan who are ambivalent toward the United States, to say the least, how can they understand this process? First of all, I want to say to every Pakistani or South Asian or third world individual who might look at this program on the internet or on channel or some other system, that there are two sides to America. This is the other America. I want you to see this America. This is the dignified America, the principled America, the America of the American ideals. And then, of course, there is a betrayal of those ideals, and there is a government that represents that betrayal. But to the extent that the reality of the duality exists, we must recognize this America as well. Having said that, what I want to ask you is, why is it that there has not been a word out of State Department, and no major publication in this country has said a word to the State Department? So I'm asking you both, the conduct of the government and the conduct of the media. What explains that?
May I try?
Please.
Imperialism. The Pakistani people are familiar with the British Empire and the history of the domination of the subcontinent by the British Empire. That empire was in decline in the early part of the 20th century. World War II replaced the British Empire with the beginning of an American empire. Now we're in a situation where the United States has gone far beyond what the British could ever imagine. And to the extent that the U.S. has established itself as being responsible for controlling the areas of the world that they view as being important strategically, the support for Musharraf is a decision that was made after 9/11. He was told that if he didn't cooperate, that Pakistan would be bombed back to the Stone Age. And this is about big power politics being played out in Pakistan and in other nations to the detriment of the people of those countries, because empire considers itself first and the people of the world second, in my view.
Okay. Well said.
Would you like to add something?
Well, sadly, it's unrealistic to think that the Secretary of State or other officials of the government would depart from the policy of the government, which is military domination and exploitation of other countries. This administration, and it's a hard thing for us to have to confess, but if it's so obvious that we have to, and that is that our government supports militarism. It wants to dominate militaristically, to exploit people. And its support for Musharraf, as its support for Zia al-Haq, has been absolute. They were there present at the creation. And they think these judges and lawyers are meddlesome, you know, a nuisance. Far from not standing up for them, which is the most obvious human thing for anybody to do, they want to bury them. That's the type of opposition that they fear. So it's we're a long, long way from hoping that, realistically, that our Secretary of State, I mean, when you think of General Powell, who, as a human being, I respect enormously, going before the United Nations, testifying as he did on Iraq and weapons of mass destruction and things like that, you see that if you're in government, with rare exceptions, you're going to speak the policy of the government, and if you don't, you're going to be an exception, and you're going to be out of the government.
Could I mention that we have two examples of that sitting at this table? We have a former Attorney General of the United States who speaks truth to power, which means he is not now in power. We have a senator who spoke out against the Vietnam War, who carried forward the principles of democracy even in the last election, and he was excluded from the debate by the Democratic Party. If the Chief Justice and the rule of law is viewed as an annoyance and as something to be rejected by our government, we can only hope that we find ourselves in the same position here. And I want to take my hats off to both of you for continuing this fight, because it's the choice you're given is either we'll buy you or kill you, and you have not been bought. And you're an inspiration for people in this country,
Let's hope that we don't get killed too soon.
It hasn't happened yet.
Sadly, though, we're the exception that proves the rule, Peter.
Unfortunately.
And we have to try to bring people power to bear so that
Right.
those that have obtained some leadership position will have the courage to do what's right. They know what's right, but they won't do it because they're part of the problem.
But even historically, you know, it has proven that, you know, it's not just the leadership. You can't count on leadership to just do what is right. You know, it takes people to get involved. You know, when we look at any movement that has taken place, it hasn't been recognized nationally and through national leadership until the people themselves have went to the street, you know, have said, and peacefully went to the street and said, you know, we're tired of this. There has to be a change. You know, we've seen that in the civil rights movement. What was going on in South Africa, you know, would have continued in South Africa because it was a business venture. What went in Vietnam was a business venture until people started saying, you know, we're tired of individuals dying. We're tired of the human rights and civil rights being violated, you know. And so once the people then took notice, you know, then they challenged leadership. You know, now some leadership did the right thing. Others did it because it was politically, you know, the correct thing to do at the time. You know, but if we don't continue, you know, as people to support, you know, government in doing the right thing, you know, government will make the decisions for us, you know, and continue to make decisions, and it's not always the right decision. You know, so we have to have more programs like this, you know, and we have to support other countries.
Well, let me ask you a more specific question. I'll continue you in a second. The question I want to ask you more precisely is, in case of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, maybe some people believe his unforgivable crime was looking into disappearance of people in Pakistan. There are at least somewhere between 500 to 2,000 people that had disappeared without a trace. And when their families inquired about their whereabouts, it was said that they have been kidnapped by Al-Qaeda. Later on, it was discovered by sort of, you know, the suo motu action, that is a self-initiated action of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, that they were not being kidnapped by the Al-Qaeda, they were being